Antigua's parliament moves to give cabinet the power to approve or reject bank sales. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Tuesday, December 11. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Ricardo Roberts. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Prime Minister Gaston Browne on Tuesday tabled the banking amendment bill in the lower house of parliament to give cabinet and the finance minister the final say on the sale of banks that operate in the Twin Island nation. This comes in the wake of Scotiabank's decision to sell banks operating in 9 Caribbean countries to Republic Financial Holdings of Trinidad and Tobago. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Browne is warning that his government will not be responsible for any run on Scotiabank. Speaking to ABS News after a ceremony in memory of the island's first Prime Minister, V.C. Bird, on Monday, Browne reiterated that his administration will not provide a vesting order to facilitate the sale of Scotiabank to the Trinidad-based Republic Financial Holdings Limited.
We have made it abundantly clear to the Governor of the Central Bank and to the members of the Monetary Council that we have the right to issue the vesting order. And I've already indicated to Scotia and to Republic Bank that we will not be giving the vesting order unless we get a deal that is satisfactory to us. In that case, they'll have to go to court, but we'll not voluntarily do it. And we're doing so to ensure that we can get a piece of this pie to build resilience within the indigenous banking sector to make our banks stronger.
Scotiabank last month announced plans to sell its bank in Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Grenada, Guyana, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Martin and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Guyana has also expressed reservations about the proposed sale. It's back to the bargaining table for trade unions in Grenada and members of government's Pension Engagement Committee on Friday. This after the unions rejected government's new proposal for the payment of gratuity and pensions for retiring public sector workers. Now, last Friday, the unions submitted a counter-proposal to government's 8% offer. But in giving an update to its membership, the Grenada Union of Teachers said the unions and staff associations had rejected the latest offer. Public officers are demanding a 25% increase while government originally offered 2%. Public officers have been engaged in sporadic industrial protests since November 5th. And Guyana's main opposition, the People's Progressive Party, is threatening court action over Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu's presence in the National Assembly while he is performing the duties of president. The PPP, through its chief whip in Parliament, Gail Teixeira, wrote on the Speaker of the House on Monday saying that it might be unconstitutional. The PPP said when it was in office and the then Prime Minister Samuel Hines carried out the functions of the office of the President, he was not allowed to attend a sitting or a committee meeting in the National Assembly. We get more in this HGP Nightly News report.
The opposition wants Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu out of the National Assembly while performing the functions of President. Opposition Chief Whip Gail Teixeira has written to the Speaker of the National Assembly, citing Article 1784 of the Constitution, which in part reads, during any period when a minister is performing the functions of the office of the President under Article 96 or 179 or has assumed the office under the proviso to Article 95(1), his seat in the National Assembly shall be regarded as vacant. At the expiration of the period, his seat shall thereupon be resumed by the minister. The action of the opposition caused a lengthy delay in the start of Monday's consideration of the 2019 budget estimates. Here is Speaker of the National Assembly, Dr. Barton Scotland.
Given the very short time in which it was sent to me and the contents of the letter require more than just a very quick response. It is a letter to which I shall respond in due course later on this week.
Speaking to reporters, the opposition chief whip said that her side was calling on the Speaker to uphold the Constitution.
That the Prime Minister cannot be in the House, he cannot attend Parliament or a committee member, he cannot vote. And to allow him to do that would put in jeopardy the estimates.
Given that the Prime Minister is performing the functions of the President, the opposition is maintaining that there must be a separation of the executive and the legislative.
This also could be a matter that is taken to the court. So there is an option to approach the court for an interpretation.
The Constitution is rooted in the separation of powers of the three branches of government, namely the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary.
Still in Guyana now, the government has confirmed the dismissal of the Commissioner of Information after acknowledging that no funds had been allocated in the 2019 budget for his office. Commissioner of Information, retired Justice Charles Ramson, was appointed to the post under the previous government in 2013, and the appointment was seen then as part of the country's adherence to access to information legislation. But Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu told lawmakers that no funds were set aside for the Commissioner of Information in the budget, as the commissioner was dismissed for rendering his office dysfunctional. Opposition Member of Parliament Juan Edgehill questioned the move during the first day of the consideration of budget estimates, but Nagamutu said the holder of the post had not provided any account of what he had done. Grenada's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell wants his CARICOM colleagues to make sincere efforts to encourage easier intra-regional travel and abolish the heavy taxes that discourage free movement of the region's population. His request comes less than a week after regional leaders met in Trinidad and Tobago to examine ways of improving the CARICOM single market and economy that allows for the free movement of goods, skills, labor, and skills across the majority of the 15-member grouping. They have since agreed on a timetable to ensure that certain measures are put in place to facilitate the deepening of the regional integration movement through the CSME. We get more in this HTS News Force report.
Grenadian Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell called on the Caribbean islands to unite expertise and knowledge to make the region great again. Make America Great Again is a campaign slogan first used by 40th U.S. President Ronald Reagan and popularized by current U.S. President Donald Trump. Dr. Mitchell disagrees with the slogan and believes that the region should build synergies and improve relations with global partners to enhance economic prosperity for all nations.
The world must be made up of countries that understand philosophically their own ideology and work together to improve the lives of the people of their own country. So I don't subscribe to this philosophy of just make Grenada great again. Grenada can only be great again if St. Lucia is also great again. So all the countries in the region, we must all strive to make sure we all become great again or all remain great again.
Caribbean countries have an agreement that allows free movement of people across borders, but have encountered hurdles in implementing the policy. Dr. Mitchell called on regional leaders to drop taxes on travel and make transport more readily available for citizens.
We have to have more transport, sea and air transport. But if we have it and it's too costly, we still don't have it. So if Grenada has a pile of taxes on a ticket, St. Lucia has a pile, Barbados has a pile, St. Vincent has a pile, Trinidad has a pile, and making the tickets too costly for people to travel, then we must drop our taxes and let our people travel. And we're not talking about dropping all of it. We're talking dropping sufficiently to make the ticket easy for people to travel.
The Grenadian Prime Minister also encouraged the region to integrate information services efficiently to beef up security in the Caribbean.
So something happening in St. Lucia, we should know in Grenada overnight. Something happening in Trinidad, we should know. Recently, the gentleman shot 2 people in Trinidad, and he ran to Grenada. Now, if we didn't have a very good system of checks, that man could have been roaming Grenada without anybody knowing. We caught him within 6 days. But I'm saying, therefore, that should happen in every single country. There should be no escape for criminals destabilizing our society. Our children must grow up in a country of peace and stability.
Dr. Keith Mitchell also sided with Prime Minister Alan Shasta's plan for one regional civil aviation authority.
And still to come in Caribbean, Newsline teachers in Bermuda back on the job after staging a sick-out. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Well, we've had a chance to check on some different properties for sale in Aruba, and everybody keeps saying to us, you have to talk to a notary. So what is the role of a notary in buying a property in Aruba?
Well, Alan, in the European setting, the notary is basically a magistrate. The same as a judge. When you have a conflict, you go to a judge and he will sentence both or one of the parties to the agreement or to the sentence. The notary will overlook the contract and will sentence both parties, as in a verdict by a judge, to abide to it.
Kelly Rowland delivered a new song, her first in 5 years, for Thanksgiving weekend. Aptly titled Kelly, the trap-influenced track is an empowering ode to herself. Rowland hasn't released new solo music since her 2013 album Talk a Good Game. Earlier this year, she featured on Busta Rhymes' Get It with Missy Elliott.
Teachers at Bermuda's government schools heeded a call from Education Commissioner Kalma Richards and returned to work on Tuesday following an island-wide sick-out the previous day to underscore their grievances. Vice President of the Bermuda Union of Teachers, Anthony Wolf, confirmed the industrial action did not continue on Tuesday. He says the action was the only way to get the Education Ministry to deal with grave concerns raised by the union. Wolf says the union had given the government a list of 23 problems that had to be tackled. The union's president, Shannon James, says the industrial action by teachers and principals showed how strongly they feel about the issues within the education system. The Bahamas government is welcoming the latest economic growth projection from the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, and it says its socio-economic policies are starting to pay dividends. And Finance Minister Peter Turnquest says he is forecasting a favorable New Year review following an assessment by the IMF. On Monday, the Washington-based financial institution said the Bahamian economy continues to recover with real gross domestic growth projected to reach 2.3% this year and slightly declining to 2.1% in 2019. More in this ZNS Network News report.
The Ministry of Finance says it will stay the course as the report signals positive movement on issues identified as deterrents to a healthy fiscal position. The report commends the Bahamas for the new Fiscal Responsibility Act and Disaster Relief Fund. The Finance Minister gave this overview of the assessment.
The IMF has come in and did its staff review, which is an annual review preceding the Article 4, which will happen early next year. And they have done their review and have seemed to have been fairly comfortable with where we are in terms of our progress towards fiscal consolidation and in the reforms that we've put forward. We recognize there's a lot of work still to be done, but we are certainly encouraged that the IMF recognizes the significant work that we've done thus far and the potential for significant improvements in our overall fiscal position if we remain faithful to the plan that has been put forth.
The Deputy Prime Minister also notes the major gain in cutting the fiscal deficit by 37% in 1 year, from $661 million to $415 million. He also noted these improvements, which should weigh heavily on the assessment.
The IMF has noted the significant efforts that we've put forth to put our reform agenda forward with respect to fiscal consolidation, with respect to debt management, with respect to our discipline in the expenditure efforts to contain our growth in expenditure. They indicate that our growth projection continues to be on track, despite the significant headwinds that we face in respect to regulations in the financial services sector, which is encouraging again. And like I say, we just continue to work hard and try to deliver the results to the Bahamian people that they deserve.
And ahead in Newsline Sport, the owner of the Barbados Tridents faces extradition on fraud charges. The details when we return.
Next time on Coalition Corner, financing the response.
It is no surprise that, as you mentioned, about 75% regionally of the expenditure for the HIV response is from external sources.
But what will happen when external funds dry up?
The Global Fund or other multilaterals aren't just jumping up and leaving. To a large degree, many countries received adequate notice.
The question for us, where does the responsibility lie?
Don't miss the next Coalition Corner.
Barbados, renowned for its pristine beachfront and fantastic weather, continues to leave quite an impression on newcomers to the island and returning visitors. The Caribbean island, quite popular as a vacation hotspot, is not only beautiful due to its natural aesthetics. The island of Barbados continues to grow in popularity because of unique connections developed with our people, our culture. We can't wait to welcome you.
As a chef, you want to be a chef? There's no such thing as an English cuisine. Now you go to England, you have some of the best food in the world. But we have that opportunity in the Caribbean. So we've come a long way, and Taste of the Caribbean that Peter spoke to is a part of that. But as somebody said, I think Chef Deuce said yesterday, you are in the vanguard of this, because this is really starting to develop. Really starting to develop.
This is not any regular festival where you just come to hear music. This is a diverse festival, the one and only of its kind, where we have music on display, we have our food, but we have so much of our culture. And right now, we also have some arts and crafts on display, and we're here with the Dominica Arts and Crafts Producers Association, DACPA, naturally Dominican. Good night, tell us your name and tell us what you have on display for people to purchase.
Exiled Indian business magnate Dr. Vijay Mallya, the owner of Caribbean Premier League franchise Barbados Tridents, could face fraud charges in his homeland after a court ruled on Monday that he could be extradited from the United Kingdom. The 62-year-old has been battling extradition in recent years. Authorities in India want him to face bank fraud and money laundering charges involving almost $1 billion, but he has been holed up at a mansion in Hertfordshire in East England after fleeing India 2 years ago. Monday's ruling issued in the Westminster Magistrates Court has to be approved by the Home Secretary, and Mallya has 14 days to appeal. He lost control of Indian Premier League franchise Royal Challengers Bangalore and Formula One racing team Force India, but he has remained in charge of the Tridents franchise ever since becoming involved ahead of the 2016 season. Under his ownership, Tridents have struggled to remain among the elite teams, failing to make the playoffs in each of the last 3 years. Earlier this year, Tridents lost 8 of the 10 matches, including all 5 home fixtures at Kingston Oval, as they finished bottom of the standings. Still in cricket, Elegant Shea Hope struck a superb career-best 100 to headline a successful West Indies runs chase as the Caribbean side edged Bangladesh by 4 wickets in the second one-day international on Tuesday to level the 3-match series. Upton to bowl, West Indies tasted early success when O'Shane Thomas had Imrul Kayes taken behind by Hope in the 4th over without scoring, with the score on 14 after opener Litton Das had retired hurt in the 2nd over. Bangladesh then assumed control of the game as Tamim and Mushfiqur put on 111 for the 2nd wicket, which kept the hosts ticking along at over 5 runs and over. Bangladesh stuttered to 255 for 7 of their 50 overs, with top-ranked all-rounder Shakib Al-Hassan top scoring with 65 and Mushfiqur Rahim 62 and Tamim Iqbal scoring also a half-century. In reply, Hope then anchored a couple of key partnerships to get the Windies noses in front, putting on 65 with Bravo for the 2nd wicket and a further 62 with Marlon Samuels for the 3rd wicket. The 25-year-old showcased not only his class but maturity as he unfurled a high-quality unbeaten 146 of 144 balls. All told, he stroked 12 fours and 3 sixes, notching his 2nd century in 6 one-day innings and the joint 2nd highest individual score for West Indies in a successful ODI chase as the Windies overhauled a moderate target of 256 with 2 balls to spare. And England have named an unchanged squad for their 3-test series against West Indies starting next month, with Barbadian fast bowling sensation Jofra Archer still sweating on qualification. National selector Ed Smith said the 23-year-old was not considered for selection, with the Players County Sussex saying he was likely to qualify at some point in March 2019. The Joe Root skippered side retains the likes of recent debutants Ben Fowkes and opener Rory Burns, with veteran seamers James Anderson and Stuart Broad also included. England's record in the Caribbean is a poor one, having just won 1 series in the last 50 years in 2004 when Michael Vaughan's side dominated a 4-match series 3-0. Now, on their last tour of the Caribbean 3 years ago, they were held to a 1-all draw after West Indies won the final test inside 3 days at Kensington Oval. In the ODI side, meanwhile, Sam Curran, Liam Dawson and Ollie Stone were all left out, while left arm seamer David Willey has returned following injury. As expected, Owen Morgan will lead the squad. England's tour of the Caribbean runs from January 23rd to March 10th and comprises 3 tests, 5 one-day internationals and 3 T20 internationals. Over to football now. The Reggae Girls will kick off their World Cup campaign against football giants Brazil. This was revealed following a draw in Paris over the weekend. TVJ's Spencer Darlington has the details.
They will come face-to-face with South American powerhouse Brazil on June 9, before opposing Italy on June 14, and then closing out against the highest seed in the group, Australia, on June 18. Head coach Hugh Menzies is hoping to create more history by going further than the Reggae Boys did in 1998 in the same country.
Obviously, we're excited as a nation to get an opportunity to be on the same field with Brazil. Excited about playing against one of the top players in the world in Brazil, who probably some of our players idolize, but you know, just another game for us. We have to prepare. Australia and Italy, good tradition of football, so we're in a good group, good group that we feel like we can get in there and compete.
Meanwhile, JFF President Michael Ricketts is pretty satisfied with the draw and hopes the format of the competition aids the Reggae Girls' chances of progression.
I would want to think that we are pretty satisfied. I do hope that we'll be able to make it to the second stage. The first and second from each of the 6 groups will advance, and the 4 best third place.
And former Reggae girl Tashana Vincent was specially invited by FIFA to be a member of their recently unveiled Initiative World Cup Legends squad. The squad of former male and female internationals not only watched their Saturday's draw, but will also help to promote the FIFA Women's World Cup. Vincent reacted to the development.
And I realized the great responsibility that I had. I was elated. I knew that there's a lot of girls in Jamaica who could have been chosen, and the JFF and also FIFA saw me fit to be that individual, and I just took it in and decided that whenever I come here and represent not only myself, but every girl who has ever kicked a ball for this country.
And she also spoke of the chances of the Reggae Girls to make it out of the group stages.
I think that we have a very good chance of coming out of the group. I like the draw. I think that with the right luck, we will definitely come out of this group. So I'm looking forward to next summer. I'm very excited because we have a young, exciting group of players who are fearless and willing to go out there and leave everything on the field. So we can only be optimistic about it.
The other CONCACAF hopefuls, United States and Canada, were drawn in Groups E and F respectively.
In the Cayman Islands, the countdown begins for next year's Special Olympics in Abu Dhabi. A total of 19 athletes will represent the country at the March 14th to 21st affair. Cayman 27's Jordan Armanese reports.
Everyone was in a festive mood Saturday as athletes, supporters, and coaches of Special Olympics Cayman Islands gathered to announce the 8th delegation for the 15th Special Olympics World Summer Games. And as 19 athletes' names were read, Soki Chair Adrian Lynch says Team Cayman, much like the 7,000 athletes expected in Abu Dhabi, will compete under a unified message.
One of the team is all about participation and proudly representing the Cayman Islands, where you're from, your roots, bringing your colours of Cayman and participating in the World Games like everybody else around the world who sends their delegation to the World Games.
After Team Cayman won both gold and silver in back-to-back games, open water specialist Alec Cox makes no bones about where he sees himself on the international stage.
When I get to Abu Dhabi, I want to give a message to my friend, Mr. Phelps, and that's, I am the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
While delegate.
And that's the Sports Steve with us. We'll be right back.
Come and experience exceptional fun. Meet amazing people, enjoy fantastic food, and rock the nights away to world-class music at the 23rd Annual St. Kitts Music Festival. 3 nights of musical entertainment from the 27th to the 29th of June 2019. Book now and save the date. For more information, log on to stkittsmusicfestival.net. St. Kitts Music Festival, an experience like no other.
So, what does the president want, Ambassador? What does President Trump? What is his end game?
Well, I don't know what in the world of everything what he wants. I do know that he wants to appoint good judges. And
I'm talking about in terms of the Mueller investigation. Let's stay here. What is he actually? What is the outcome that he's seeking? Because listen, he wasted no time letting Sessions go. I'm sure that letter was sitting in his desk for the last 6 months.
And that's Caribbean Newsline. Have yourselves a wonderful evening.